To you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear grandma, happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
How old are you?
Right.
How old are you? How old are you? How old are you?
I'm 88 years old. I'm 88 years old. I'm 88 years old. 88 years old.
May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you.
You already had.
And many more.
Now today gets to eating. We want speech. From Dad. We want to hear
you doing
all that he got to say.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Break it down.
Happy birthday.
Crazy.
Watch out!
Dad has lived such a wonderful life, and we want to hear all about it because there are things that we never knew about. That is our heritage and our roots, so that you know, you will know to pass on to your kids and all the things that he knows. We wish we could get in our heads.
And he done
so that
passed
we
some
know.
on already. His name.
Yeah, his namesake Robert.
Forget that. We'll
Don't worry about that, Robert, unless he gives him a plate. But yeah, Dad is such a wonderful example, a man of God,
Hey, come here.
a man of God, and just such a wonderful father, husband, granddad, and all of the above. And we just love him so, and we want to hear about his life and see different things that he has experienced. So that's the focus of today, December 22nd, 2007.
Yeah.
The birthday, the 88th birthday of Robert E. Strickland.
And it started when?
Robert Edward.
When?
December 22nd, 1919.
All right.
All right.
Okay, let's hear from Dad, the birthday boy.
Let me kind of brief you on my heritage before I came on the scene. This is my grandmother here.
Wow.
Now this was taken in 1934.
Let's see, Grandpa. Hold it up.
Yeah. My grandmother was a slave. She was a slave.
Hold it up.
Pass it around, but don't drop it, son. Yeah. She was a slave, and my granddad was a slave.
I've seen it.
My granddad's his first recollection as to if he could remember, that he was the young boy that emptied the slop jars or the night chambers. Now, and back in that time, they didn't have indoor toilets. They had these buckets like that they would use, and then they'd have the slaves to take and empty them out in the outhouse. So this was his job, and he said that he don't remember how old he was at that time. He didn't remember his folk because they were separated when he was 4 or 5 or whatever, you know. But
and what was his name, Dad?
His name was Edward.
Edward
Strickland. Like my dad, it was Edward Strickland. He was my grandfather was born in, as near as I can remember him saying, and he didn't remember actually, but we kind of researched it, and there is some mention of him back in 1848 or 1849.
Wow.
So he was, well, slavery was abolished in 1865. So he was a slave for a long time. And then he was from a little town called Wall Hill, Mississippi. I believe this is what he says, Wall Hill. I never been there. I've been through there. But he finally relocated into Tunica, Mississippi. And Tunica is where all the casinos are whatnot now. But the casinos are on the northern end of Tunica, closer to Memphis.
Okay.
The other part of the Tunica is further south and very rural, not as exotic as the casino area there, you know. It's strictly cotton fields and such, you know. This is what and if I can remember now, I'm trying to picture. Oh, let me say this. This lady here is my mom. See? This lady here is my mom.
Now,
Let me say this now. Let me
Don't
just
you
say this.
remember?
Yes.
I never knew my mom.
Oh.
I
Okay.
Before we came to Chicago, my mom and dad separated. My mom was in Memphis. And I gather this. I didn't ask, and I can't find out now. But I think my dad came back. He left and went to Chicago. He came back to Memphis, took me and my brother to my grandmother's house in Mississippi.
and this is which brother?
Uncle Louis.
Uncle Louis.
Uncle Louis.
Uncle Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all came to Chicago.
Okay.
Now I think, I can't say this for sure, but I think my dad used some subterfuge to get me from my mom down to my grandmother's house. I don't know. I've never asked them why did they break up, but my mom has so said, Mama Strick is kind of headstrong.
Okay.
This is all she's
Okay.
ever said.
That's all she
Mama Strick is kind of, and I didn't find that out until she was here, and when we were at 03.
03, and I was born. That's
Right.
How old were you, Dad, when you went? When he got you from her?
Something under a year,
Oh,
or maybe a year.
Maybe a year.
'Cause I think, as far as I remember, my grandmother said I wasn't old enough to go to school when we came here,
Yeah. Oh.
and so I don't know exactly what it is, but I just assumed.
Well, if you
it was-
were a year,
So-
Louis was younger than that. Oh no, Louis was older
Louis
than that.
was
Right,
18
Dad
months
was a baby.
older than me.
Mm-hmm.
There was 3 of us.
I didn't know that.
My older
I
brother
thought you were the
was.
oldest.
Yeah.
Dad's a baby.
I thought you were the oldest.
No.
So
I had
Uncle
an
Pete
older
was
brother.
older.
I'm the
Uncle
youngest.
Pete's the oldest.
I had an
Uncle
older brother
Louis.
named, we call him Pete. His name was Willie Strickland.
Uncle Pete.
Then
Uncle
my
Pete.
my
Okay.
brother next to me was Louis. and then me. So there was 18 months between
See, I ain't know
each
that.
one of us.
I always thought you were the oldest in there.
No,
People was
I'm
younger
the
than you.
youngest of, and I'm the last.
Okay.
I'm the last of the Stricklands. There aren't any more.
But I wonder why, Robert. Wonder why your dad left Willie and
Now,
just
then
took
this I
the
don't
two
know.
of you all.
This I don't know, and I can't find out at this stage.
I know
There's
it,
nobody
I know it.
that I can ask,
I know.
and it never entered my mind to find out why these things unfolded or why did they happen. I don't know. Your heritage wasn't there so much of wasn't too much focus placed on it
Right.
back in my growing up
then,
years,
right.
you know, because we were so trying to get
Eat.
a penny or two to live.
Yeah.
Right.
So this was heritage wasn't we couldn't call anybody.
So it wasn't even important.
No,
then.
there was no phones. There was one phone, one outdoor phone at 95th and Lafayette. And it was a nickel phone, you know, you had to use, and it didn't stay too long because there wasn't nobody using it. So they finally took it away because it wasn't profitable.
Nobody had the nickel.
Didn't have the nickel, and didn't know
Nobody
who
got a
else to call.
Who else got a phone?
Back in the 20s, you know, there was no, money was pretty scarce back in the 20s, you know, and during my growing up years, you know. And when my dad brought us here, we lived at 95th and LaSalle, 9557. I never will forget that. And my grandmother, my middle brother Louis, my aunt, Sweet Annie, you might have met her somewhere along. She passed some time back. You might have. Let's see. You and
That was your father's sister?
that was my father's sister.
And what was her name, Dad?
Her name was Annie Hart. Addie Hart.
A?
Haddie. Addie Hart. She was my grandfather's daughter. My father, they had different moms. My grandfather had another, I don't know if there's another family, but my aunt Eddie was my half aunt, if I can use that terminology. Because my dad and my other aunt were from Grandma.
Okay.
And my dad, this is my dad's mom.
Okay. Edward's mom.
Edward, right. This is Edward's mom.
Okay.
And what's her name, Grandpa?
Addie.
This lady,
Adeline. Adeline Strickland.
Okay.
Adeline.
Adeline
That was his
Strickland.
grandmother.
Uh-huh.
You know, we call her grandma so much I didn't
Really know a
remember
real
her name.
name. Adeline.
grandma. And then she was grandma to everybody. You know, to everybody, you know,
Yeah. Adeline.
So we came here to, I think, in 1921. I wasn't school age at the time, and we lived at 9557 LaSalle. There were no paved streets. There, no paved streets, no street lights. There was there was a guy that would come around on a bicycle and light a gas lantern, or like a gas light, on the corner. There was nothing from one corner to the next. There was a gas light on 95th Street. I don't think there was any on 97. There wasn't any on 96 because there was all prairie south of 96th Street.
No damn Ryan.
95th Street was 2 lanes at the time.
Okay.
It's hard to believe.
95th Street.
95th Street,
Two
one
lanes.
going one way, one going the other way.
That's right, yeah.
Stop with your hand.
I think in 1926 they made it the 4-lane. Maybe later than that. When the WPA came about, and that was in the 30s. Might have been in the 30s when they made it a 4-lane thing.
Grandpa, how did you all get up here?
How
did you all get up here? Do you remember if it was by
We
train?
came here on a train, from what I understand now. You came here on a train. And,
just your dad,
No,
you, and Uncle Pete.
no. Uncle Pete didn't come with us.
Uncle
Louis.
Uncle Louis.
My grandmom, my granddad,
Oh, the
and my grandmother and my granddad were in Mississippi. How I got down there, I don't know when I got there, but I think my dad and my mom had separated. So I was in Memphis with my brother, with Lloyd, and I and my mom.
Okay.
My dad, he wasn't too much of a family man, he wasn't, so, but anyway, he split.
Okay.
And came to Chicago. After he got pretty much settled and whatnot, then he came back. Now, I think he used a little subterfuge to get my brother and I down to my grandma's house.
In Mississippi.
Right. And we didn't go back to Memphis anymore.
Oh.
We left Mississippi and came
to
here.
Chicago. And
Right.
you weren't even school age.
Oh, no. I must have been maybe 1 or 2, somewhere thereabouts. I can't imagine
So, and Grandpa, you were...
he was going back to my grandmother's and not being breastfed. I mean, I'm past being breastfed. I was
yeah.
probably eating.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably eating.
Yeah.
So, and then he didn't go back to Memphis anymore.
Okay.
Unless,
Okay.
I don't know where we caught a train going.
To come up here to
Yeah.
Chicago.
This I don't know. And because my dad wasn't too much of a family man. Even when we were growing up, he's already had a good job. He worked for Santa Fe for almost 50 years before he retired. Santa Fe Railroad at 18th and Canal.
Oh. Okay.
But he would always, he thought he could gamble. And I found this out when I was I must have been about 8 or 9 years old. I knew he couldn't gamble. Didn't nobody else have any money but him, because he was the only guy who was working. And he would go while these guys were gambling, and they'd all be waiting for him. And I used to have to meet him. My grandmother sent me to meet him, come to work, to bring him home.
With the money.
So he can come home with some money.
Oh.
So he was a pretty decent fellow. I can't say anything too, but he just wasn't a family man. I never, he wasn't around me too much. My grandmother and my grandfather, my grandmom specifically, was the driving force, and she nor my granddad could read. My dad couldn't read too much. No, he couldn't read hardly at all either. Yeah.
Do you know if he could write his name?
Pardon?
Do you know if he was able to write his name?
If you're going to ask a question, get over there. So she can get-
Yeah, he might have. You'd have to decode it once he'd written it.
Okay.
I used to sign his checks for him.
Oh.
I signed his checks in Strickland, and he'd take it to the wherever until he got a point. Got where he could. They just knew him, and I think they kind of beat him out of his money. I'm not sure, but anyway, he would. He wasn't a very learned fellow. He wasn't very learned at all, but he's always had a job.
Grandpa, when
Always went
was
to the
You have to
job.
go over there.
hold on? When was he born, Dad?
My dad,
Yeah.
let's see, he died in, he must, I can't remember.
You have an obituary from his funeral?
It must have been
Yeah, we got one at home,
1890, 1889 or 1890. I saw where, no, he went maybe after that. He and my mom was married in 1916. 1916.
And when
So
did he pass, Dad?
Pardon?
When did he die?
I think it was, Mom, when did Dad pass? Do you remember?
I know he was 65.
He
He
was
did what?
65.
I know he was 65.
He was more than
And he
65.
was born in 1900, so it must have been 1965.
No, he wasn't born in 1900. He was born in
1890.
I mean, 1900. Mama was born 1899, but she was a year older than him.
I'm mean, my dad.
Oh, I thought you asked me about my dad.
Oh,
Oh, I don't know.
You're
about
next,
your dad.
Mom.
Because I remember going to your dad's funeral.
yeah, my dad must have been born in 18.
Oh,
Me and my mom
1890s,
took the
I
bus
would
to
say.
his dad's funeral.
90 to maybe 88
Yeah,
or so,
yeah.
because he was married. That he and mom were married in 1916. So I'm just assuming he was at least 18 years old or somewhere thereabouts. Like I
Okay.
don't have any.
Obituary or funeral?
No. Of course, he didn't live with us too long. He wasn't. He was almost a stranger to us, actually.
Okay.
And let's see, I had 3 stepmothers that I remember. They weren't, I don't think he's ever been married to any one of them. Lucienne. Then there was one before that lady. And then Miss Lucienne.
Miss Ruby.
And, but I don't remember that.
Miss Ruby?
They weren't.
Miss Ruby.
Miss Ruby was the last one.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what
Miss Ruby
Mom
was the
said.
last one, and we didn't get along too well either.
Now, Dad, your sisters,
My
3 stepsisters.
okay, they are. My mom remarried,
Okay.
so they. I didn't know them. The first time I went, I saw my mom to know her. Was 1943. 1943. I was getting ready to go overseas.
Oh, okay.
And I was stationed at Camp Atterbury, Indiana.
Okay.
And I had a 3-day pass to go to Memphis because there was a fellow, his wife was from Memphis, and they had a car.
Okay.
And she came down to pick him up, and I went back with them to Memphis,
Where your mother
where my mom was.
still
Now she
there.
knew where she knew the street on which my Hummer Street it was, as I remember, you know. She knew where Hummer Street was, but she didn't know, had never been there, you know, just knew it. So they dropped me off at Hummer Street.
Oh.
And they waited until I knocked on the door to see if anybody there would know me.
Yeah.
And I waved them on, you know.
Oh.
then
And
they
Grandpa,
left.
you were 24 at the time, or about 23, 24 at the time.
Let's see, I went to, 43.
When he was in the service.
24.
I was, no, because I was 23. I was 23 because
And did she recognize you, Dad?
Yeah, so
Did
go
she
on.
recognize you? That was where your mom? She didn't recognize you.
She hadn't
That was
seen
your
me since
very
I was,
One.
or less.
Oh.
No, she didn't know me at all. and she'd had remarried, and she had kids that were 12 and 13 like this, you know. That I didn't know them, and they didn't know me.
You.
I didn't know. Let's see now. I think her husband was still. Yeah, he was still alive when I met them. Yeah, but this was the first time that I saw.
He came to Chicago.
Who's that?
Mama's husband.
Yeah, he's on this picture here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, let's pass around the pictures, Dad.
Is that one right there?
This one here, Dad. Who's
Yeah,
that?
maybe this is it. Yeah, that's my mom there, and that's her husband.
Lori.
That's her.
Oh yeah, this is on
So-
St. Lawrence. Is that on? That's on St. Lawrence, ain't it, Dad?
Say no,
7403.
743.
7403.
Yeah, that's
A big brown
that's
envelope.
I didn't know any of them at the time because I didn't. I had never seen. This was the first time I'd seen my mom to know who she was. And I didn't see her again until we went to Memphis to pick her up or something. Anyway,
Yeah, he gone.
we came to Chicago, and
Now, Grandpa, and describe your mom when you saw her and when you realized, because you got your height from your mom,
but yeah, right.
because your dad was short or average.
Yeah, he's about 5'8", 5'7".
Right. But your mom, you get
Little
your
dude.
height from your mom.
And my mom is almost eye to eye with me.
Wow.
But yeah, she's about 5'10" and a half, somewhere thereabouts.
And Grandpa, what was her name?
So this is where I
What
got
was
my
her
height
name,
from.
Robert?
My brother,
I don't
the brother
remember her
between
name.
Bill and I, took height after my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's a little bit taller than that television there.
See, I never knew him. I never got a chance to meet him.
That's Uncle
You
Lou.
never met him?
I
Yeah.
don't
He
know
had
him.
a deeper voice than Dad.
Really?
Yeah. He passed in 82, I believe. 82.
Oh, wow. I don't know how I didn't meet him. 'Cause I was around. I would have been
82.
8.
Yeah, he passed before I.
Dad, your mom was Blanche.
Yeah, that's
No, Blanche Wells.
Oh, Blanche.
Blanche Wells was her name.
That was her maiden name?
When she was Wells before she married Dad.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Then her second husband was Gathos.
Okay.
And,
Dad, how do you spell Gathos? Do you know?
Gaythos.
Okay.
That's that's her name now. That was her name before she passed. Blanche Gathos.
Okay. And so, Dad, you said that she had, you have half sisters or half brothers?
Did you
Half
have-
sisters?
My mom?
No, you
Yeah.
have 3 half sisters.
3.
Yeah.
Barbara, I think only 2 of them are living now. Barbara and I've forgotten the other
Elizabeth
name.
is
I never.
Elizabeth, Mom
in
said,
California.
and Connie. Is
Yeah, I never
Connie?
met Connie.
Connie passed.
Yeah, I never met
Connie
her.
passed. Barbara's in
New York.
yeah.
New York.
New York?
Yeah, she's
You remember
yeah, she's
Linda
in Buffalo,
and
New
we
York.
were living at 03.
They came to visit.
And didn't
Had some bad children that sat up in the middle of the dining
you
room
remember
table.
that stupid
Yes,
table?
and Mom was so mad.
Ooh.
Didn't say nothing, did he? Dad
Lori,
didn't
move
say
it,
nothing.
Lori.
Didn't say nothing.
Barbara, the mother wasn't with him, was she? Barbara didn't come, did she? I don't think the mother was with
Yeah,
him.
Barbara
Seemed like to
came.
me, I remember
Barbara
that.
came.
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
just the
Barbara
man.
came. Now what happened?
The kids were sitting in the middle of the dining room table, standing in the on Mom's dining room table. Now,
Well,
Dad,
they didn't get choked.
are they still in New York?
They're still in New York.
What's Barbara's last name now?
House.
Barbara House.
Isn't it House?
House. Yeah. Got a
Oh.
card from him. Her husband is an invalid, from what I understand.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
happened?
he's an
Yeah.
invalid. He's on Alzheimer's because the last time I talked with her, she She said that he's sitting up at the table there, and it's in August, and we just put a coat around him because he was cold.
Oh.
So I got to call her.
You have her number.
I have her number. Yeah,
So it's Barbara House.
Okay.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is not really related to me.
Okay.
She is Mom's second
Husband's
husband's
daughter. Okay. Okay.
So they just claim us as family.
Family.
Yeah, but she's not. She was no actually blood relative of mine.
One of those girls.
And Connie in California, she passed.
Was she in California or Tennessee?
Mom, where was Connie?
Connie was in Memphis,
I
wasn't she?
never met Connie.
Okay.
No.
Was she a little
She must
short,
have been.
chubby lady? Little
She
short,
was kind of
chubby.
chubby now.
I remember
That
Connie.
was
Kinda
Elizabeth.
chubby.
Oh, okay.
I don't
One in
remember
California.
where
Oh,
you would
okay.
have met her, but she was
Maybe
kind
I
of
did.
chubby.
What was Connie's last name?
Yeah, she was. Barbara was and is slim, but Connie was a
Your
little.
mama again.
Connie, no, Connie passed it. Was it Mom? Connie
Yeah, I told
passed?
you, yeah.
Yeah, Connie
Connie
passed.
passed.
What was Connie's last name, Mama?
One is your mother.
Do you know, Dad,
What's her
Connie's
name?
last name?
No,
No. Does she have any kids?
she might.
No.
I'm pretty sure she
Let
did.
me see.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure she did. I'd have to be in touch with Barbara in New York to find out that side of the family.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I don't
Okay.
remember. I've.
Dad.
She did have some kids because I went to her funeral. Was it?
Who is that on there?
Oh, who is this?
Okay. Lori, how do I?
I don't think you know but one.
Okay, let Dad keep talking
This
because
is,
the camera's still running.
Yeah. Move your foot.
Linda
Yeah.
and I don't know the.
I told you, you don't know nobody on there but Linda.
How
I
do you
don't know
pause
the
it?
tall lady behind there.
There's nobody on there.
Again,
We're
I
rolling.
want you to tell the story about. Oh, I want you to tell the story about when you lived down on 48th in Dearborn. Because did you move from 96th and then move down to 48th in Dearborn?
No. There was 2 stops between 95th Street and.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Okay, Mom, there are 2 stops.
Hey!
Okay, we're rolling. There were 2 stops before moving to 95th.
Okay, let's hear that.
Yes, there are 2
All right,
stops.
let's hear that, Dad.
Okay, when you first.
Okay, we moved from
That's
95th Street
anything. That's my mom.
in 1932.
Okay.
And we moved to 2010 State Street.
2010.
A walk up, we lived on the 4th floor, and there was no escalator. Ever walk up those 4 flights of stairs to we lived on the 4th floor. And this was my dad moved us there because he lived in the same building and on the same floor. Our address was 2010 and his was 2020 on the same floor, you know, the 4th floor. I don't know why we moved there. I guess we weren't able, we probably was just one step ahead of the thrower. Probably this is why we moved there, you know. But anyway, we moved there. There was my grandfather, my grandmother, Louie, and I, and another fellow that we adopted by the name of Bob. Now this boy, this must have been 19. Oh, let's see, maybe I was still in grammar school, 1929 or somewhere there by 1930. There was we were sitting out on the porch. We had moved from 95th and LaSalle to 9339 Perry. And we were sitting on the porch out there, and a young fella came by and was looking for some of his folk. He'd hoboed up here, you know. He might have been 15 at the time. Maybe, no, maybe 15 or maybe less, I'm not sure. But we were sitting on the porch, and he wanted to try to find his folks that supposedly lived in the 96 block on Princeton.
Okay.
But there is no 96 in Princeton.
Okay.
So there's 96th Street was the last street going south, coming south, until you get to 103rd Street.
Oh,
That was all prairie.
Prairie. Oh.
That's
there was only
unbelievable.
one house out there, and that was the Williamsons, and they lived at 96 in Harvard, and they had to have a walkway to get out there, and it always flooded out that way, and they would almost need a boat to get out to their house out there, you know. Anyway,
Wow.
this boy came by there, and we were all sitting out on the porch.
About how old, Grandpa? He
How-
about
15.
15 years old. About 15 years
I
old.
might have, no, I wasn't 15. He was about maybe
was
15.
He was about 15.
You
Because
were
I
about
was-
You about
12,
10, 11.
10.
I might have been closer to 10 because he was about 2 or 3 years older than Louis,
Okay.
and he was looking for his sister or somebody that supposedly lived in the 9600 block on Princeton.
Right.
Okay.
So my grandmother was telling us, there's nobody that lives out there. That's all field.
Prairie.
He said, well, this is the only address I have. You know. So my grandmother said, well, take him on over there and let him see that there is nothing out there but fields.
Right.
So we went over there and I said, now this is Princeton. Nothing out there but fields, you know. And then he was, Nancy kind of crestfallen. So we brought him on back. And by that time it was getting on a little dark, you know. So my grandmother said, well, you come on in here and wash your hands and get something to eat, and you stay here tonight, you know. So he came on in and he stayed the night. And he stayed for the next 15 years.
Whoa!
Oh, wait a
What was his name, Dad? What was his
Bob.
Babu.
Now, we didn't adopt him, you know, but he
Yeah,
just
no,
came and started starving with us. You know? Instead of starving by himself. You know?
with the family?
Well, now what happened now? At 91st Street going north was a truck farm. Truck farm where they raised everything, tomatoes and greens and cabbage and the whole bit. It was a truck farm, and it ran from State Street all the way back to the railroad track, and from State Street all the way back to the railroad track comes down around 87th Street. You know, 87th Street. If it's going west, it kind of circles around Harvard there and comes south.
Okay.
So all that from State Street to past Harvard, and from 91st Street to maybe 90th, or maybe 89th Street, was a truck farm. We used to go out there at night to buy food.
Okay. Went out there at night to get some food. All right. We got you.
We go out there and requisition some cabbage.
All
But
right.
we didn't have any money, you know. We didn't have any money.
Yeah.
The only salary, right in the 96 block on South Park or King Drive, there was a farmer's market somewhat similar to 71st Street.
Oh.
Really?
Yes, somewhat similar to 71st Street on the west side of 96th Street.
Oh.
And my granddad worked there And I don't believe they paid him any money because only thing I ever saw him bring home was some damaged, bruised pears or soft bananas and cabbage. I think they paid him in the produce that they couldn't sell. Yeah. Anyway, this was kind of how we survived. In fact, not only that though, but we would get dandelion.
Yeah, dandelion greens.
Dandelion soup.
What?
I mean, now we wouldn't get those dandelions around the neighborhood there. You know? We'd go out in the field. Because the dogs didn't go out there. You know? The dandelions in the around there. You know, they don't tell what might be, but out in the field, we'd go out there and get dandelion. You know, and this was how we kind of survived.
What did you do with the dandelions? What would you make?
Boil them, just like we do turnip greens.
Greens. And they now you can buy them in the grocery store. They're now organic for $4 or $5 a pound.
I don't know
sell them at Whole Foods.
That was a delicacy. Yeah, we'd go out there and with a croaker sack, you know. They don't have them anymore.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Now explain what a Kroger sack is.
A croaker sack is a burlap bag that they usually
potatoes.
Produce in this burlap bag. But I don't believe the black folks didn't know what a burlap bag was, so they called them croaker sacks. Now, how that name ever happened to be attached to that, I don't have the foggiest idea. You know?
But
we'd go out there and requisition some cabbage and whatever, you know. But we'd always go at night. Now.
Now, Grandpa.
Let me tell you something else that happened too. Now this was way back the same time when we still lived at 95th Street. There was a fellow that used to come by selling oranges. What else did he sell? That's usually was oranges. Occasionally tomatoes. Yeah, but usually oranges. Sometimes bananas, but not too often, you know. He was from Michigan. And we kind of, we had, the guys out there, we had a deal going, you know. One guy would go up there, a couple of guys would go up there and get a bucket of apples and run.
Okay. You had to do what you had to do.
Yeah.
And when he started after him, we
Everybody
get about half a block away.
I had to get some.
He looked back, he couldn't see his truck. So many guys, so he got smart. Tell you what, if you guys will sell some bananas or not apples or whatever, you know, I'll give you a nickel. And so he got us to be on the same enterprise with him. That saved him from losing half of what he had. You know? Right. We did that.
Really?
And something else we used to do. Every Sunday, we would have chicken. And Grandma would get 5 chickens for $1.
Wow. Whole chicken.
5 chickens for $1. But they were running around in the yard.
They were alive?
Fresh.
A guy from someplace used to come by with crates of them. And it was 5 for $1. And we would, she would put them under a basket. And on Saturday night, we had a great big iron pot about yay deep, and it was set on where they built a fire under it. Yeah, and then there was, this is where she would do washing. She had three pots. No, yeah, 2 pots and a tub. No, maybe it was 3 pots. 2 pots and a tub, and then a rinse tub. You know, where she would boil the clothing, the sheets and whatever, in this first pot where the fire was. The second was the rinse pot. I don't remember whether there was a fire under that one or not. Maybe not. And then the next one was where there was rinse them, and then she would hang them up on the line.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so she put 5 chickens.
This was standing. This was in most of the households there now. Not only in ours. There was a laundry out in Roseland, but that was, that wasn't, that never came into the picture.
Okay. So Grandpa, how did you get the 5 chickens that were alive?
Yeah, well, the guy would get them, would
you all
get him by the leg, you know, and it would tie his legs and give them to Grandma, you know. And what Grandma would do would put him under the basket and cut the string on his leg, and then he'd stay under the basket, you know. Now a couple of times, they'd get away.
Yeah.
And you talking about an ordeal.
Outrun them chicken.
Oh my God.
And she'd have you all, Grandpa.
Some sort of a deal, you know. But this is what we have. This is what we have every Sunday. Well, most Sundays, not every Sunday, because sometimes we didn't have any money at all even to buy the chickens.
And Grandpa, also, this was all before Uncle Pete came.
Before Uncle Pete came.
Okay.
Yeah, before Uncle Pete came. This is Louie and I. Uncle Pete never lived out of 95th Street. He came to us in 1936. Because I was still in high school. Yeah, so he, 1936. Yeah. Well, after we left 95th Street and moved to 20th, this was in 32, because the World's Fair was 33 and 34, and we weren't too far from the World's Fair. Yeah. And we'd go there 2 or 3 times a week, you know. Didn't pay. Didn't have any money to pay, in fact. Yeah. We went there 2 or 3 times a week, and just the guys, you know, we had ways of getting in.
Oh yeah.
And this was in 33 and 34 when they had the World's Fair there. And tell you what I used to have to do. After we moved from 20th and State Street to 29th and Ellis. This just down the street from Michael Reese Hospital.
Reese, yeah.
29th block.
Okay.
There was black folks all along there all along there. There's some white folks who lived on Lake Park. That's the next street before you get to the trains there, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Was Michael Reese there? Michael Reese Hospital was there?
Oh yeah.
It's been around that long.
Oh yeah, it was there. It was there long before. I don't know when it built. It was already built when we got there.
Okay.
So I don't know what time they actually built it there. But it was we.
No, not me. Your grandmother.
Because one of the lads that lived next door to me, 2 doors from me.
Long time ago.
They used to do something with dogs there. They had some sort of
gambling.
I don't know what they were doing, but they were maybe it was guinea pigs or something. I'm not sure.
Oh.
He had something to do with that. I don't know what that was. Maybe now. Let's see. Now we got. While I went to Dunbar School. Well, I went to Rider School when I was at lived at 95th Street, 93rd. Then we moved to 20th and State Street. I went to Dunbar. Yeah. And then I graduated from Dunbar and then went to Phillips. Okay. Now while we were at lived on 48th and Bowman and Dearborn, we used to. There was a train track, was just on LaSalle Street.
Train track on LaSalle.
Okay,
just past because we lived on Dearborn. Then there was Federal, I believe, or then LaSalle, or something that might be close up.
Robin, say excuse me.
And then the railroad track.
Okay, this was in the where on 50 something?
Oh, this was at 806 Dearborn.
Oh, okay, 48.
Yeah.
Okay,
4806
gotcha.
Dearborn.
And this is when we used to, all the big guys would get on the coal car around 54th Street. The train was bringing the coal because at that time they didn't have gas that was heating all of the downtown buildings.
They all use coal.
Coal.
That's
But
right.
they had an underground
Yes, I
runway that someplace around 18th Street they would unload the coal onto these old cars, go underground, and over to Marshall Field, Sears, or whatever. But they didn't. There was no coal trucks backing up to Marshall Field and dumping coal in.
Right. Right.
on the street.
On State Street
They
now.
were down
They don't let that
underground.
downtown.
Oh, it's underground.
Right.
But now,
In those tunnels.
before it got down there, you know, when it got along 49th and 48th Street, the guys would be throwing off big lumps of coal. Yeah, big lumps of coal. And then the rest of the fellas had with the wagons. Getting the coal, putting it.
Well, they got downtown.
Before it got downtown.
Yeah.
Well, now, we didn't bother. Couldn't, those little nuggets like they had, whatever they had downtown, we didn't bother about that. They drew off them big honks. You know, yeah, like that.
Straight out the mine, huh?
Right. And this is what we used to heat it in the wintertime. Now, we didn't have, we had torn down all the fences that were
trying to keep y'all
All the wood
out.
gone already, huh?
Yeah. You had to do what you had to do to survive.
Right, yeah, because we didn't, and we had a coal stove and a coal heater. That's all.
So that right
There's no gas.
Yeah.
There were the other folks had gas, and no electricity either. Now we didn't have electricity. We had lamps, a coal stove, and a coal heating stove.
Wow.
Now we thought we had moved up a notch when we got a stove that had a reservoir in the back that you fill with water, and as you put the fire in there to cook the foods, this reservoir would be heated by the fire, the coal that was cooking.
Okay.
And so what would the water, what would be the
It'd
point?
be like a humidifier.
Yeah, right. So there was
Robert.
there was this section here where you put the wood and coal in there that would heat the eyes up there on top, you know. And then right beside that, where the fire is here, and right over here was another reservoir where we put water to heat the water.
Now, would you all actually use the heated water, say to make coffee or to make tea?
Right. Because you could. It was right by where you boil food to cook, you know, and it's right up against that, so that's heated too. So it was hot.
Wow.
But this was
Like you said,
a step up.
I know it was.
A step up. Before then, we'd have to put buckets on the
Wow.
on top of the stove to heat to take a bath. And we didn't bathe too much either, by the way.
No,
didn't bathe too much. No, we didn't have a. We had a bathtub, but if you put water in there, it was so cold, the water would be. Well, if the water was hot when you put it in there, it would be cold before, because two of us or three of us had to bathe in that same water.
Wow.
So it
was that limited.
It was being poor was. We never had. You don't miss things that you never had. And my dad wasn't too much of a family man to see to it that we had. Christmas was, we'd get a Christmas tree January 1st.
Oh, Dad.
When the folks would throw them away. And we'd go get a Christmas tree.
Oh.
Never had a Christmas tree in our house.
Okay.
Never had a Christmas tree. And we would get one of these little stocking-like things with some peppermint candy in there and maybe an orange. And my granddad would bring oranges from the. So it wasn't.
That would be Christmas.
We didn't have too much. We were very, very poor.
And then the wagons you all used when you were on the coal cars. I thought it was coal trains, but it's coal cars.
It was a train that was loaded with coal cars.
Right. Right.
And that would be maybe 60 coal cars.
Coal cars. And then the wagon you'd use was made out of what? You all made the wagon.
Yeah, we would find throwing away buggies. We come out in Roseland. We'd go out in Roseland, and because this is where the white folks were.
Yeah.
And we would go there, and they'd have all buggies and whatnot. They couldn't, and whatever shape the buggy was in, we would get it.
Yeah.
Of course, it was out there for it. And if it didn't have 3 wheels on it, that's all right. We'd find another wheel from another one somewhere, But the axles were there. Right. So we would take it, and we had some Cadillacs, because all the boys made wagons at that time, and we'd take a two 2x4s, so maybe from here to there, and we'd have a 2x4 across. We'd have the front wheels up here, and back here we would have a body light.
What?
We would build it.
You build it?
Yeah, we would build it, and
wow.
The front wheels we'd have tied with strings, with rope rather,
Right.
and just pull it, and you could, if you were riding in it, if you wanted to go right, you just pull it this way, and the front wheels would turn that way. You go left, pull this way, and the front wheels would go. We built them. Yeah, we got the big.
Wow.
Like that.
General Motors almost built.
Yes.
All the kids had wagons. Yeah. All the boys had wagons, and because we used to race. We used to race. See who would come to bed fast. That was some sort of a deal too. Anyway, then another thing we had to do. There was a fellow that sold milk at 95th and Western, and if I remember correctly, he came up there every Tuesday. I'm not too sure on it, but I'm thinking this. And my brother and I used to walk from 93rd and Perry to 95th and Western to get a gallon of milk for a nickel. A gallon of milk for a nickel.
Don't get the light.
And that was, and then we'd walk all the way back. Now it took two of us because we would, you know, exchange when one got tired and bring it all the way back. And I don't think my grandmother, this wasn't what she used to make butter because it wasn't that much. But this was something else we had to do. My, what did, how did I survive?
To go.
Very well. Survived very well. You know?
Yes.
Being poor was kind of inconvenient, but it wasn't impossible. We didn't really we didn't know anybody that had any more than we did.
did so.
You had good times more than good bad. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's what really matters, though.
There was nobody to envy because everybody else was
had nothing.
same light, you know. But it was, but one thing, you know, it was one thing that happened.
What's that there?
I don't believe, I can't remember any kid ever dropping out of school.
Wow.
What?
I can't remember any.
Isn't that amazing?
That was never an option. Never an option. And most of the kids, you know, were good students. Most of them. There were one or two.
What's the kid's a good student?
Now, there's a boy by the name of Cornelius Rogers. He and I were I wouldn't say we were the smartest boys in the class, but we were always compete one against the other. We were good friends. Yeah.
Okay, a little friendly competition.
Yeah. And we would finish our work, and the teacher had us drawing a mural on the wall.
What?
And I didn't get the chance to finish it because before we finished that vacation, the summer vacation, we moved to 20th Street. So I didn't. I don't know how he finished. And then I didn't see him. I got one somewhere.
Okay, Dad. Yeah. It's on the floor. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And he was killed. He was shot down in World War II. He was a pilot.
Really?
I remember hearing about him. I didn't. We all kind of lost contact after I moved away, and so we weren't. I just happened to hear about him that he was pilot with the.
Who was this, Dad?
One of the lads. He and I were in grammar school together, and he was a fighter pilot. Killed over in Italy, as I remember reading. Cornelius Rogers.
So, Grandpa, when you were asked to do a mural, does that mean that you were really good at drawing?
A drawing. You
were really good at drawing?
Yes. It was a knight on a horse, and it was a big thing, you know. And we didn't finish it. He might have finished it after I moved, but the teacher would have had us doing this because we'd finished the work.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what our teacher used to do. She said, "Look, I'm gonna call some numbers.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the function that you're to use in adding, subtracting, or whatever. And I'm only going to tell you once."
Okay.
And so she said, "Okay, all right. 7 times 8 plus 4 divided by 10 minus 5.
All right.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, Dad.
And you would have to do that one time.
And what grade were you in, Dad? Or how old were
Maybe
you?
seventh 6th or 7th.
6th or 7th grade.
Right.
Now, Dad, was Not this writing when Grandma, so your grandma, Adeline, she said about the book
Adeline.
learning? Adeline.
That's all she is. She didn't know what education was.
Get that.
She, you know, none of my grandparents or my dad, he wasn't too concerned. But she'd always say,
What's it called?
boy, you get book learning.
Good book learning.
And that's all that was she drummed into us. And my bro.
You okay?
My bro was a smart dude too. Not smart dude too. But he was
Smart dude too.
yeah, not you know. But my bro was a good student.
All right.
Yeah, my bro was a good student. My brother,
Warm it up?
he drank
No,
quite a
babe,
bit
just
after
put it on.
later years, you know. But he was a good student. But this was our kind of upbringing. That school was
Angie.
it was a fun thing. You know?
Yeah.
No, here.
Yeah.
No, sit in that. Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
Grandpa,
school was fun, and not only fun, you learn things, you know. Why I think my bro and I love to read. We never go in any place, you know. Growing up from 95th Street to 92nd, from State Street to Wentworth, this was our world.
yeah.
And that wasn't, you know, there wasn't too much in our world. Okay. So we would read. And through the eyes of the author we were reading, we could see London or wherever, you know. And it's just adventurous, you know, without ever actually going there, because we didn't go any place. I don't remember ever having any money.
Until the milk.
Now, I used to, we would get, if we'd find a milk bottle, we could get 2 cents for a big quart bottle, or this was all bottles, they were all glass, and there was no cartons or whatever. We could get 2 cents for a quart bottle of milk, and a penny for a pint. Okay? And you couldn't find them in our neighborhood around here, around where the black folks live. But we go out in Roseland, going up and down with our wagons, going up and down, looking in the white folks' garbage cans that's sitting out in the back of the alley, you know, and finding what we could there. And then there was a fellow with, we used to call him the rag man. He would come by buying rags. I'm trying to remember now that he didn't have he had a horse. He didn't have a truck. He had a horse.
What?
2 horses.
What would the rag man do?
Yeah, 2 horses.
The rag man would sell rags or would buy rags?
Buy them and then take them to wherever they had rags and sell them. You know? And not only rags, you'd buy copper. Now, copper was a pretty valuable item back then.
Yeah,
you know?
it still is now.
is.
People are stealing them now, Dad.
Yeah, well, it was.
Now.
Well, it was
Still,
pretty
they were
valuable
stealing them
item
then.
then, you know. And if you could get a bundle of copper, you might be able to get 15 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. And 15 cents was Bill Gates' money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we never had that much. You know, we might get 3 or 4 cents. And we would get electric wire and burn the insulation off, you know. This way with the copper wire, then we would make a ball out of it and whatever, you know.
And Grandpa,
But we survived.
and what would you do when you all would, with the money, with
Well,
the 2
now,
cents?
we would buy you could buy a book for a penny. Buy a book for a penny. And my brother and I would go and buy, I've forgotten some of the books we would buy at that time. And, Oh my! I remember one White Fang.
White Fang.
White
This was by,
Fang.
oh, I forgot who
the
wrote
author?
White Fang, but it was about a dog in Alaska, as I remember, and he was a domesticated dog, and he belonged to a little boy, and something was trying to bother this boy, and White Fang came to his rescue. I've forgotten all of the
That was one of the books you bought for a penny.
White Fang.
Yeah, White Fang.
I've read that.
Yeah. You read that?
Do you remember who wrote it?
I don't know who wrote it, but it's about a boy growing up in Alaska.
Right, right.
Oh.
He found was he a wolf or a husky?
He was mixed.
Mixed.
Wolf. He might have been a wolf. I don't
wolf,
remember
part
now.
husky or something like that.
Yeah.
They made a movie of it.
White
Yeah,
Fang.
they made. As a matter of fact, there's a series of movies about White Fang. Yep, I know there's a 1 and a 2.
Boy and his dog.
A boy and his dog.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to do the sled thing across Alaska.
Yeah. Oh yeah, wanted to be in the dog.
That was one of them. I know that was in one of them.
Wanted to be
That's
a.
the first one. He was growing up during the gold rush era.
Well, yeah, I guess I do.
Yeah, they
remember
made
that
a
too.
series of movies.
Yeah.
I read one of the books. I read the first book.
Is that right? We gotta look that up.
I know.
It's-
Dad said he bought it for a penny.
Okay.
That's what they would do. They would get the milk cartons over there for 2 cents.
And Grandpa, it's so ironic that when you finally would get money, it wasn't like you were trying to get like toys or
Candy.
games or candy.
No.
The first thing you wanted to do was get a book.
We'd buy a book.
Yeah.
And when we moved to 20th Street, and then even over at when we were on 29th Street, there was a junk shop. This is what we called it, where the guy would collect clothing and old silverware and plates and whatever and books.
Mm-hmm.
And we could go there.
Wow.
And buy a book for a penny.
Wow.
And if we had a nickel, shucks, we'd go there and get 5 books, and sometime if we didn't get any more money to buy any other, sometime we'd take them back there and swap 2 for 1.
What?
Oh.
Well, we'd give him 2 books and he'd give us 1.
Right.
And we would walk from 29th and Lake and Ellis to the 30th and State.
Wow. That's
This is
a
where
little
this
walk
garden thing was done,
from Ellis to State.
Dad, did your grandmother ever talk about her thoughts of the future, like maybe her where you would be, where your kids would be? Did she ever talk about
No. Grandma was neither one of my grandparents had any schooling, none at all. They weren't exposed to any learning. They couldn't read anything, couldn't count, couldn't say their names.
Well, Grandpa, how do you think?
Wait, Lord.
Go on.
But my grandmother specifically, not my granddad too. He was just the disciplinarian primarily. When my grandmother didn't feel like taking us to the lash, but she would always say, "Boy, you get some book learning," And
She knew that it was
Education.
important. That was important.
yeah.
They weren't allowed to read.
Huh?
But she growing up as
Adeline wasn't allowed to read or
No,
learn to
growing up
read.
as a slave.
No, they weren't. No, that was flogging
Wow.
punishment and the white folks that tried to make it was looked down upon. You know, because they didn't want you to. They didn't want black folks to read.
Back then.
Yeah.
And Dad, when was she born?
What? When?
Yeah, when was
Adeline born?
I don't know. I don't know, and she didn't know either. But she was somewhere along there with my grandfather, you know. So it maybe, I don't know, same age, 2 or 3 years younger, whatever. But they were both back there in the late 1880s. Yeah, I'm thinking they were both. No, they were no. My father was born in the
You say 1840?
My grandfather, my dad was born possibly. I'm thinking since he was married in 1916. I'm thinking that he might have been at least 18 or 20 years old, somewhere thereabouts. So that would put him back to 1896 and somewhere thereabouts. My grandmother would have to go back 20 years. That'd make it 86, 76, somewhere back then. I'm just trying to imagine what might have happened because they had no idea.
Yeah.
Because time and dates didn't make too much, you know, just Christmas time or Easter, this type of thing, but they didn't. They weren't. One day was just like any other one. You know?
They were trying to survive.
Dad, did they talk about anything about their? You talked about Edward Strickland, and he remembers the slop jars and things.
Well,
Wait a minute.
My dad wasn't too. He wasn't much of a, well, I don't want to say he wasn't much of a father. We weren't too close, to put it that way.
Okay, with your grandpa? With your grandfather?
No, he wasn't too close to my grandfather either.
Okay.
My dad wasn't too close to his dad.
Okay.
Because he didn't ever come around. You know, he just left us there and then went on his merry way, you know. And we would look him up. Try to, you know, when we moved down to 20th Street, he lived right on the same floor with us.
But still in another building.
But I would always try to see him before he got home. Because his wife wasn't too friendly for us, you know. No, she wasn't too friendly. I remember one incident that's really stuck in my mind. Is my grandmother didn't have anything for us to eat, so she said, "Go down there and see if your dad ought to have something. Tell Miss Ruby, tell your dad to have Miss Ruby fix something for you to eat." You know? And so we went down and told my dad. We don't have nothing to eat, you know. So he told Miss Ruby to fix us something. So you couldn't.
I had the other lines.
No, you couldn't look down on anybody else, you know, because we were all on the same level, you know. Everybody's eating hand to mouth, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was just. There was an orchard. The school was right in the 93rd block on State Street. And there wasn't any, there was fields behind the school, but just to the north of the school was an orchard. They had crab apple trees there, you know. Many a day, me and some of the other guys have climbed up there and got the reddest apple, you know.
Yeah.
I developed a taste for crab apples too.
The 29th Street, and he came to 29th, hoboed. Came to 29th Street looking for us, and
Uncle
we weren't
Pete.
there. So he went back to Tennessee.
And you said he was about 12 years old
Somewhere
at the time.
thereabouts.
About 12, 13
When he
years
came
old.
By himself.
When he came here, he might have been, when he came in and found us, I was in school, he was 3 years my senior. So he might have been 17, and I'm maybe 14, because I was going to do Sabo. And so I was, maybe I might have been 15, maybe 16, course, I only spent 2 years at DuSable. So he might have been 19 when he first came here.
Second time when he came and actually found
Second time when he found us. And
First time he was about 12, the second time about 19.
Right, about 19.
By himself.
By himself. Well, he was working with the circus.
What?
Working with the circus.
Uncle Pete was working with the
And
circus.
this is how he happened to get up here, because the circus came from wherever, and it came to some place in Indiana.
What?
And this is the first time.
Uh-huh.
He came to some place in Indiana, and then he walked from I guess it was Gary, all the way to Chicago to try to look us up. And then when he couldn't find us,
He went back to the circus.
then he had to go back. You know, so he went back. The second time he just hoboed all the way here. Now there was another fellow that used to run on the railroad. Now he was. Everybody was cousins or whatnot, you know. Ivanhoe. I don't know what Ivanhoe Sharp. And he was belonged to the 8th Regiment. So he was a meticulous dresser, you know, and he'd always
What was
light
the 8th
skin.
Regiment?
This was a Army thing, a 35th in Giles.
Okay.
This was the 8th Regiment. This was this was their armory where they marched and stored all of it. But anyway, he was a soldier. He wasn't in World War I, as I remember, but he was a soldier. And I don't know where he got money from, but anyway, but he rode the train. I'm trying to think, was he a Pullman porter? No, his brother was a Pullman porter. And this is how his brother found out where Isom was his name. Isom.
Oh my goodness.
He found out where we were, and he told Ivanhoe where we were. And Ivanhoe went back to Memphis because he knew Mom. Yeah, Ivanhoe knew Mom and knew Dad from Mississippi. Yeah. And he told Mom that we live where we live because I began to get letters from Mom. And this is how Bill happened to find us this time when he hoboed up here.
Uncle Pete. All right.
He had, when he got to our house, the rags on his feet that he'd been using for shoes was gone. He was almost plumb barefoot.
And found his way.
Yeah. I don't know how long he'd been hoboing, you know.
But again, it was the Kroger sacks that he had on his feet.
That's right. This is what they used. This is what they used. But he rode out that worn out that Kroger sack. Oh my! We used to laugh about that. Tell me how you know, and the railroad policeman didn't follow the train, you know, because he was going to stay there. So they would run and hide under weeds someplace until he goes wherever he's going, and then when the train start off, you know, here they go, and flip off the side of the train, and I don't know how they knew. Well, most trains coming from south, from Mississippi, come to Chicago.
This is the hub.
Right.
Okay,
Most trains.
right.
Very, very few trains.
Battery's almost dead. Baby, can you move so I can show that? Uh-oh. I only got a couple. I think it's out.
Showing the whole basement.
Huh?
I said you don't show him the whole basement.
Yeah. He said he wish he could get down here.
Huh?
He said he wish he could get down.